So as we have seen, qualitative methods involve the researcher not only exploring respondents' perceptions and interpretations of the world, but also explicitly positioning themselves as active interpreters of that world. So as a consequence, knowledge is created through research. It is not a collection of facts that can be found out there in the world, but rather knowledge is produced through the decisions that we make in the research process. So this raises questions concerning what makes good knowledge, and indeed what makes good or bad research. Good research is, in the first instance, ethical in nature. The ways which are connected to, but separated from, the different aspects of the social world that we study means that issues of access, trust and ethics are important to consider in our research practice. How, for example, do we begin to gain access to a particular social group? Access arrangements are of vital importance. Without them, any research project is doomed before it begins. In the first instance then, gaining access is made easier by doing background exploration on the nature of the social group under study. By using the internet, documentary material, contact directories and other publicly available archives, key issues can be ascertained, such as the key people and places to know for that subject. But also, how do you present yourself to these key stakeholders? Should you study that culture covertly, or should you gain access and permission to access their lives?
So when doing qualitative interviews, being overt, in other words, being open, clear and transparent about our wish to gain an insight into the world of the interviewee through conversation, is the most obvious and practical ethical choice. However, if we're doing ethnography, for example, the choice between being overt or being covert in our research, in other words, conducting secret research about a particular group or issue, isn't such a clear choice.
So in some cases, secret investigation may be effective, and sometimes the only option available for research. Covert research can be justifiable on grounds of safety, where revealing your status might endanger yourselves or others, or when the nature of the culture you're studying means overt access would be impossible, for example if you're studying illegal activities. However, in the vast majority of cases, covert research is difficult to justify. Covert research not only limits the types of circumstances you can readily gain access to without causing suspicion, but also makes it difficult to maintain honest and open relations with those you wish to study. So at some stage during covert research, it's likely that your true identity will be revealed. At this stage, such transgression often results in feelings of antipathy being raised towards you, but also to the broader research community of which you are a part. Would the outcomes of your research project outweigh the damage caused by such antipathy? Being honest and open about the nature of your research, what it will be used for, and what you want from your respondents is often not only the most effective course of action to gain the best knowledge of the world, but also the most ethical. As Ian Hay defines, ethical behaviour protects the rights of individuals, communities and environments involved in or affected by our research. Being overt is often the most ethical course, as it protects the interests of those we may wish to study, giving them the opportunity to sign up to research, knowing all the small print involved in their participation. Or they, for example, have the option of being anonymised in your work, to speak off the record if necessary, or to read through your finished project before it's made public. In what circumstances would such opportunities be appropriate or not? Ethical behaviour, then, when gaining access to the cultures and places under study, helps the successful operation of your research project. Acting professionally, courteously and with respect not only increases the chances of people responding in kind, but also reflects well on the broader academic community. From the onset of recruitment, through letter, email or personal communication, through operationalising your research method, and then when you leave the field, rapport and good relations ensure effective and ethical research. However, as we've seen with the examples of covert research, the best ethical approach is not the same in all cases. There is no one right or wrong course of action, and good practice will change with every research project. With this in mind, it's up to all geographers and social researchers to be reflexive about their actions in practice. Critically thinking about your behaviour in all aspects of research, considering not only how you would feel being contacted in this way or that way, but also putting yourself in your respondent's shoes. These are often good ways of reflecting on how you should actually behave. In many universities, there are ethical guidelines to help you make the best possible decision for your research project. These guidelines do not ban or outlaw particular types of research practice, but encourage you to reflect on the possible outcomes involved in one course of action or another. So we need to think about why we make the decisions that we do. What other actions could be more appropriate than the ones we want to take? If we can robustly justify our potential actions from such questioning, then it's likely that our ethical imagination is properly switched on. Because ultimately, it's a responsibility for all of us as individuals to conduct responsible and ethical research. So how would you answer these questions for your project? How should you go about gaining access? Should you be covert or overt in your research? Should you photograph people without their permission? Should interviewees know the reason and objective of your interview? Should they know what the data is going to be used for down the line? Should you offer them the option of anonymity? Should you break the law in getting research information? Where should your loyalty lie? To your college or to your university? To yourself and your project? To the people who helped you in getting the research? Or to the broader society and the law? Should you protect your sources? Thinking about these questions require us to be reflective in our decision making, to constantly think about why we're taking the actions that we're doing and justifying them to ourselves and to others. We need therefore to make a case for our actions, to be accountable for them, to be transparent about them. In relation to all these questions, we need to be constantly reflexive in nature, to question and question again the decisions that we're taking and the reasons for them. We need therefore to make a case for our decision making, to be accountable, to be transparent, to be relevant. In other words, we need to have rigour in our work. The notion of rigour has replaced the idea of objectivity, that there are social facts in the world that we can literally go out there and find using the right materials. But if knowledge is something that we produce through our research practice, we need to have a way of making sure that the knowledge we produce is not only ethical, but rigorous in nature. The notion of rigour has a number of key components. Firstly, rigour needs to be intellectually compelling. It needs to talk to theoretically relevant debates in the field that we're interested in, challenging or indeed building on existing ideas. The notion of rigour also means that we need to be politically persuasive. Our research needs to talk to politically relevant debates and provide insight into relevant social phenomenon. It also means that we should be policy relevant, perhaps talking directly to policymakers to help them make better decisions. But policymakers aren't the only public we should be interested in. We could be interested in the broader public, campaigning groups for example, or local community groups. By being relevant to these publics, we can also ensure that our research project is rigorous in nature, making sure that our research isn't simply for us in the ivory tower, but it's connecting to different publics out there in the world and providing information that they can use and that they need. Before you go ahead with your research project, you need to be rigorous and ethical in relation to the data you're going to use. As Kitchen and Tate tell us, we need to bear in mind the following 4 factors. Is the data we use credible in nature? Credibility relates to the accuracy of the source and sincerity with which we record it. Is that source illustrative or representative of the broader issue? Are there other sources which might also be useful to check representativeness? How much weight should we attach to that person's opinion? Do we interpret their opinion correctly? Should the short source be used in a literal sense, or is some level of interpretation needed to fully understand the purposes of the respondent? Can we prove our sources? Is there evidence of transcription? Can we provide evidence of our interviews, our research diaries? Can we show our working? Can we prove that the evidence that we use was ethically generated? Researchers in the social sciences have access to a wide range of methods at our disposal, spanning from quantitative to qualitative in nature. This breadth of choice, whilst initially appealing, must be handled with care, for as we've seen, choosing inappropriate research methods, ill-suited to the context of one's research, will have an impact on the validity and reliability of the data collected. So what can we do to become a more ethical researcher? First of all, we can make sure that our ethical imagination is active and appropriately engaged. We can develop our philosophical and analytical skills. We can heighten our sense of moral obligation and personal responsibility for our research, and we can expect but not necessarily accept, disagreement and ambiguity in the knowledge that we find and help to create out there in the world.
This is the final edition in the series on doing qualitative methods. The series was devised, written and created by Dr. John Anderson, who is a lecturer in human geography in the School of Planning and Geography, Cardiff University, and was supported by the Higher Education Academy.